close this door? Please close the door. So welcome everyone to the March 25th Steering Committee meeting. We are both in person with a forum right now, and also we have a number of guests joined into us. So I'll call the meeting to order at 6:36 p.m. We'll do a very brief introduction here. I'm Pat Bates. I'm with San Fernando Valley Audubon Society. I am the rotating chair this year. And let me start with Erin just for a quick intro for the members and presenters.
I'm Erin here, and I'm with Friends of the Los Angeles River.
Terry?
I'm Terry Brady. I'm with the San Fernando Valley Group for the
Glenn?
Glenn Bailey, I have two affiliations, both as, okay, so for right now, sitting here, alternate for the Resource Conservation District of the San Juan Mountains. Since the rep is in the assuming that position, I'm also a representative of the senior.
I'm Rick Corsini. I'm with Forward Alliance Los Angeles.
Rick is one of our presenters, and Charles?
Charles Hanna, also with Forward Alliance Los Angeles. Frank Stewart, California Native Plant Society.
Joe Phillips, Sierra Club Angeles chapter.
A community member, good.
Yeah, Jacob Garland, Park Cedars.
All righty.
I'm Carrie's son, Charles's wife.
All right, thank you. That's our in-person guests. And let's see who we've got on. I see attending online. Let's see here. Barb, if you want to unmute and introduce yourself quickly.
Hi, I'm Barbara Heidemann with San Fernando Valley Audubon attending.
Okay, American Sri Lanka.
Hi, I'm the Secretary of the America Sri Lanka Photographic Art Society. I think you can.
Okay.
It's just very, very private.
Okay. All right, thank you. Cara Campbell.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kara Campbell. I'm a community member from Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah Whalen from the U.S. Army Corps.
Hi, Hannah Whalen, Army Corps of Engineers.
Thank you. John Rishi, Army Corps.
Hello, everybody. John Rishi, Army Corps of Engineers.
Thank you. Melanie Winter, one of our committee members.
Melanie's muted, but she's Melanie Winter of the River Project.
Yes, thank you. Kim from Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council.
Sorry about that, you guys.
Hi, Melanie.
My touch screen was being weird. Hi, sorry, Melanie
Hi,
Winter.
good seeing you.
Nice to see you guys.
All right. Miriam?
Hi, Muriel Coton, San Fernando Valley Audubon alternate.
Thank you. And Miriam Preisel. I don't know what's happening. I can't hear Miriam. And here we have Rosie from Council District 6.
Yes, I'm the Lake Balboa Field Deputy for Councilmember Imelda Padilla.
Thank you. And I better get an agenda so I know what the heck I'm doing.
While you're getting the agenda, you forgot me, but that's okay. Nurit Katz, LA Audubon Steering Committee member.
Oh, I'm sorry. How did I forget Nurit? See, you have to keep an eye on me. Thank you.
No
All right.
problem.
We can't keep an eye on you. You're out of view. You're out of view.
I'm out of control.
You were, no.
All righty, the minutes of the last meeting, I think, Aaron, I don't know if you got January done yet.
I did, I sent it to you late, I apologize.
Okay, let's do the January minutes at the next meeting. I did send out the meeting from the ad hoc February meeting. Has everyone taken a look?
Well,
This was a while ago. She sent those out prior to
So
me.
it was ad hoc, so it's nothing we.
So we don't need to worry about it? Okay, moving right along,
Before you move on,
yeah,
if Noreen has a contagious disease and wants to qualify and participate under AB 2449,
yeah.
we can do that because we have a form. Although it's not.
Okay, so we do have a quorum, and I believe that both Melanie and Nurit have medical excuses for not being here.
Okay, so they're allowed to do 2 per year, and it's, I guess, their choice if they want to do it.
So I will leave that up. So Nurit, I'll let both of you weigh in. Nurit and Melanie, you can have.
I'll use one of mine, and because I'm usually there in person, and I think we should dig into whether there's any other dispensation for someone with significant illness like Melanie, rather than limiting her to 2, but we don't have to discuss
There
that now.
is. Yeah, Melanie obviously could not be exposed to you, certainly so. Melanie, do you want to use one of your lifelines for this?
Yes, because I want to vote.
All righty.
Hope it's not that critical.
All right. Okay, that said,
We need a motion to give approval under Assembly Bill 2449.
okay, thank you.
I'll make that motion.
2449. What's the number again?
Assembly Bill 2449.
Okay, do we have a motion? A second?
Second.
Okay, anyone opposed? Seeing none opposed, the motion passes. So, Nurit and Melanie are seated virtually for the meeting and are eligible to vote. And that said, we're up to reports from government agencies. Let me just make one request before we really get going. We have the gentleman here from the Forward Alliance LA to do a presentation on the revitalization of Bull Creek and the project at the southeast corner of Balboa and Victory. And I'd like to move them out of order so they come after the government reports. Would anyone object to that?
What is the name of their agency?
Did you grab an agenda? Okay, it's Forward Alliance Los Angeles. So seeing no objection, after the government reports, we will have the presentation.
Thank you.
And it'll be the first time I've done it this way, so please be patient with me. I think it'll work. Rosie, would you like to go ahead?
As far as updates go, geez. Can you actually come back to me so I could gather everything?
Sure. Let me call on someone from the Army Corps. So Hannah or John, would you like to have a few words here?
Sure, yeah, I can catch everybody up. So since the last meeting we attended, which I think was January, maybe it was February. Anyway, the approach channel sediment removal was completed. We got that, our O&M crews got that done between the rain events. We also completed the vegetation management of the South Reserve. That 125% section that we did, we were really pleased with the results. we had a few of you meet us out there and do the walkthrough, and we flagged all the native plants in there, a lot of coyote bush and golden currant, and other native plants, and they managed to cut around them, remove all the non-native and dead annual stuff. So we were really pleased with the results that they did there. Probably the best job they've done to date at that reserve as far as from a restoration standpoint. And another thing, moving on to master plans, of course, the Sepulveda Dam Basin master plan revision, the public comment period closes tomorrow, 45-day public comment period. I know that Pat had sent the comments over, so I emailed her back. If you just check my email, Pat. But so once we get all those comments, the team will get together. We'll address, every comment that we receive. That's going to be documented as part of the environmental assessment. We're going to do an alternatives workshop. This is internally with the project development team. And then we're going to come up with a draft master plan. So you'll have a second chance, then that goes out for public comment. So just so you know, you'll have another chance to comment on the master plan once we have the draft released for comments. And that'll also include an environmental assessment. And then the last thing I have is that the city of LA is planning to do this Annabelle Godwin Day at Woodley Park. And so I believe if we haven't already, we're planning to issue a notice to proceed. That's scheduled for April 12th. I think that's a Saturday, but it's an event, has to do with childcare. I don't know, maybe Hannah, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure, yeah, it's just a one-day event. There'll be a couple food vendors and some childcare providers there from, I think it's about 7 to 2 p.m., 7 in the morning. Yeah, that's about it. And then just to add quickly on the veg stuff, we also removed a couple stands of eucalyptus out of the young eucalyptus stands out of there, so those are gone as well.
I have a question.
Glenn has a question.
Who's the applicant for the April 12th event?
Let's see here. It says, I don't know if is it Child Care Resource Center? Is that, it says, oh, Tracy Goldberg, Recreational Services Branch.
Yeah.
The event is organized by the nonprofit Child Care Resource Center. And it says we'll include free resource event for the community, and will include dance performances, a stage, and childcare providers and vendor stalls at the Woodley Park Recreation Center. That's right next to the Japanese gardens, outside of it. And it's, I guess they're estimating 2,500 or less participants, one-day event, which is why it didn't rise to the level of a EA. So we just, we analyzed it, Hannah went and analyzed it for environmental impacts, and felt that they could proceed. So we gave them a letter of no objection.
Thank you.
Okay, and are they located where Chapel?
What's their location?
Where they're located, where the event is located?
No,
Or-
Glenn, what's your question?
The applicant, where are they located?
I'm not sure. Hannah, do you know?
No,
Yeah,
no,
because
I'm not sure where they're located.
Yeah, it was the city of LA that requested it on behalf of the vendor, so.
I see.
Sorry, one more. So who in the city of LA, I mean, what department?
It's
Development.
Recreational Services Branch,
Um,
Valley
Recreation.
Region. Valley Region Recreational Services Branch.
Okay, thank you.
Muriel's hand is up. Muriel, if you want to
Yeah,
unmute
yes, it
yourself.
is. Perhaps Aaron can address this better, but Friends of the LA River and the Jane Goodall Institute are planning a large habitat restoration event that very same morning in the wildlife reserve, which is immediately adjacent to the Tillman plant. So perhaps Aaron can better address it, but I see a huge conflict in space that day.
Or I was actually thinking the same thing. So the Jane Goodall Institute is putting on a Habitat Restoration Day as part of LA Climate Week. And Audubon, Native Plant Society, and Friends of the LA River are collaborating on that Habitat Restoration Day. They plan on, you know, maybe one food truck and a couple booths. But predominantly, it will be a standard habitat restoration day done over 2 shifts. Currently, they don't have a huge sign up, but Dr. Jane Goodall is coming to Los Angeles and will be speaking. And she will be promoting the habitat restoration on the 12th. So I believe they were hoping to cap things at 400 volunteers total. One shift in the morning from like 8 to 11, and the second shift from 11 to 1.
Yeah, that looks like it's right about the same time as far as the schedule. They're like 7 to 1 is.
I would just,
7 to 2.
since Parks isn't here, yeah, we can volley it back and forth, but if Parks isn't here, I don't think there's no information that we can lean from it right now.
Yeah.
But it does sound worrisome.
I will let the contact know the Jane Goodall Institute, because he's been in touch with Melissa Rivas at LA Rec and Park. So I'm gonna let him hash that out.
Well, of course, any event like this needs to have a permit from the city. Just contact the permit office, ask them to send you a copy of the permit, and you can find out.
They did do that, yeah.
Do you have the permit?
I'll ask Sean. Is that technically there?
I'm sure the child event will be used.
No, that's, I'm talking about, that's what, this other event, if you want to know the details.
Oh, got you, okay.
I would imagine that both events were permitted, given that they're in different locations, so they're far enough apart, but with the hangups of parking in the space, that's sort of a concern.
Yeah, well, the child event, the parking will be closer to Woodley, obviously.
Yeah.
So then the parking for the Goodall event will be further up, so there might be some confusion as people pull in, see all the cars parked there, and they'll park where closer to Woodley, and then have to walk into the Goodall event, so you might need to have some really good signs right there by the Tillman to direct people to go down that long driveway to get into the wildlife reserve parking. So as it goes usually with anybody trying to find the wildlife reserve, it's very difficult. First time I was there, I was confused with get all, but
yeah,
the signage right there at that intersection by the Tillman might really need to be beefed up.
Okay, we can bring extra signs on Polar's part, and then I'll ask JGI if they have any signage they want to add.
So if we wanted to put a booth up on that day, is there somebody that we should talk to?
Yes, I will give you his name, Sean Sweeney, he oversees communications for the Jane Goodall Institute. And I'm sure that he would love that.
Absolutely. Okay. It's only 8 to 1, so that's a pretty doable time. It's not like the whole day event. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? Or-
Any more questions for John?
Thank you.
For the court? Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Thank you.
one more question. I'm sorry I missed the walkthrough. When will the next walkthrough be scheduled? And, if possible, I'd like to put that on my calendar, because I'll go to the 10.
Well, it'll be next year when we do it again. It's an annual. You're talking about the veg? Yeah.
Just once a year. Okay. I'm sorry I missed this last one.
Mhm.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, Rosie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
As for updates within Council District 6's kind of jurisdiction, I wanted to talk about the camera system that was approved a few weeks ago. So I met with one of the park rangers earlier last week, and we pretty much decided where that camera is going to go and which pole is going to be used. So it's going to be right on the corner of Burbank Boulevard and the 405 freeway. There's already an existing LADOT streetlight pole that's high enough to where we can add the camera, and we're just waiting for LADOT's approval to start that installation. So that's gonna be happening very soon. And with the money that's gonna be left over from not using a different pole, we're also exploring having possibly another camera on the other side. So we're waiting to have this one go up first, see how successful it is, and then we can have another one at some place deeper within the basin, just depending on if we can find visibility or another pole that we can mount. So that's pretty exciting. Once I have more information on that, I'll be happy to share. In addition to that, our office is also going to be submitting to the Sepulveda Basin the public comment period. So we're finalizing our draft as well, and we're going to be sending that in. So those are my main updates for now.
Okay, well, we can't wait to see it working. We're very excited about it, and that is great that possibly there can be two of them put in there. Do we have any questions for Rosie?
I guess the big question, with the cameras, when do we think that they'll be up? When do we think they'll be live?
Honestly, a few weeks. We're really just waiting for DOT to approve that we can for sure use that already existing pole. So the park rangers are handling that. I will follow up with them to see if they have any update from LADOT. If not, then I'll definitely step in and try to guide that process a lot faster. But once we get that approval, the installation should not take long at all, and then it'll be up and running. And our office, along with the fire department as well, will have access to these camera systems as well. So.
Oh, that's great. So the fire department has access to?
They will. I'm planning on giving them access because the camera will also be used to detect any smoke. So they'll be able to kind of see that firsthand, and I think it would be helpful for them. So I'm definitely working on getting them approval to have that set up as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rosie. And just a word about I know we have kind of an after action meeting on the homeless count coming up Thursday. Okay.
I'm gonna be at that meeting on Thursday as well. So.
Okay, we'll see you there. Thank you very much. Okay. So nothing else from Rosie. I think at this point, Charles and Rick, right?
Yep.
Are here from the Forward Alliance LA to give us a little presentation on, let me see if I can make that a little bigger, and I'll turn the light off or turn the light down a little.
Or those lights, those two lights are these lights that are. We're taking a focus on primarily focused on those two lights.
Whoa, but really big. How's that? I'll fiddle with it if everything isn't showing up. Okay. So guys, away you go.
Smaller.
A little smaller?
Yeah. So you all know this, have you seen this view before? Any view?
It looks like Newport Beach, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So all the bases.
So it's a great shot. The river here, the park, the lake. So this little brown patch is where I'm gonna talk about that in particular soon. But let me give you a little introduction. So my name is Charles Hanna. My wife and I moved to Sherman Oaks in 2008, and we began to walk through the Sepulveda Basin pretty much every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So we got to know it very, very well. And one thing that really bothered me on our walks was the reclamation plant had water going into the two lakes, one in Lake Balboa, the other in the wildlife reserve, and it would go from those two lakes out into the river and out to sea. And I thought that was complete lunacy, given that Los Angeles has got a water problem. So I was asked to present at an ideation meeting in June of 2022, where we were asked to come along with an idea that we were here for something, here for Los Angeles, and what was that idea? And 3 presentations were going to get $5,000 in seed funding. And I presented this idea for a community garden in Lake Balboa Park, in the northern edge up against, at a part of the park that very few people go to, on the other side of that berm where the ground is. And I was very fortunate that Rick was there. He was there to make a presentation as an expert. He was one of the founders of Silver Lake Forward, and he came up with this genius idea for the rehabilitation of the Silver Lake Reservoir. So he gave us talk, I was inspired, and then I presented my idea. And afterwards, he came up to me and said, "It's a great idea, but you have a problem. You've got an expertise gap. Who's going to manage this community garden?" And I said, "I've got it all worked out. I'm going to talk to Ari Bennett at the high school. It'll all work." And then I came home and I thought about it. And thought, oh no, Rick is right, because what he had done in the Silver Lake Reservoir project was that he had formed this incredible relationship with Los Angeles Unified. So his suggestion was, the garden's a great idea, but what about having an environmental study center to anchor the garden? And he then introduced us to LA Unified, got a meeting with them. They thought it was a brilliant idea. And so that began. This was before we heard that there was a vision plan that being run by the city. And so by the time we heard about that, I managed to get us a meeting with the Bureau of Engineering and their consultants. And we went to a meeting in December of 2022 before they actually started work, and we pitched Environmental Education Center. In the meantime, we'd come up with another idea, given the original inhabitants of the land, that we should have a Native American restaurant. Well, Rick also had lots of ideas about that. He said, well, if we're going to have a Native American restaurant, we should have a Native American foraging garden. So this is what we pitched to the city in December of 2022. Since then, it's evolved quite dramatically, and I'd like to go through how that's happened. So this slide talks about LA Unified and what we hope to teach the kids who come in, who use this facility. Habitat and watershed restoration, avian migration, the impacts of climate change and global warming, and Native American and indigenous knowledge in a study center that's right in the middle of one of the biggest cities in the world. What an amazing resource this could be. So the central mission of the Forward Alliance, well, we originally were calling ourselves Lake Balboa Park Project, so it's all folded into Forward Alliance. There's the Environmental and Cultural Studies Center, Native American Plant Nursery and Foraging Garden, Native American Restaurant and Kitchen Garden, the rehabilitation of Bull Creek, a civic plaza, and resilience community and interpretive centers. The fifth component will also serve the local community as a gateway to the park, with programming in response to community needs informed by regular outreach and liaison with Metro to ensure that their plan for 300 units of affordable housing on the Balboa Lake, on the Balboa Station parking lot is integrated with our plans. So here's the site plan created by Rick and his firm, and you can see here is the community entrance to Park Gateway. 12A is a crescent shaped the two-level building in which we plan to have a community center, a resilience center, hopefully a branch of the Los Angeles Public Library, so that when people come and use it as a resilience center, there'll be actually something for people to do, not just shelter from the heat. So, by the way, all of this is on the Google Drive as well. So if you want to refer to it in more detail.
I'll need to send everyone a new link to it because we replaced the file.
So that's and we'll talk to that a bit more in detail later. The restoration of Bull Creek is the next thing I want to talk about. As I know, you will all remember, and this is coming from your website, that in 2009, the city and the Army Corps had this great idea to rehabilitate, restore Bull Creek. And it looked pretty exciting at the time. You know, they were going to make the banks no steeper than 3 to 1. There was going to be this oxbow. Water was going to come through the oxbow and back into the creek and go out to towards the LA River. And it was really very exciting for Carrie and I as we walked through there as it was happening. So this is a really interesting image of the extent of the construction. And you can see the oxbow. This is an image taken from the steering committee's website of how it looked soon after. And it's pretty great. That's Bull Creek, believe it or not. And another shot. But now, what do we find? What is it today? It's this terrible mess. And I'm quoting from Pat. Thank you for letting me do this. Storms in 2009 and 2010 caused the poorly designed project to suffer severe erosion and collapse of the east bank of the creek. The eastern boundary of the area was then fenced, cutting off access to the granite pedestrian walkway and interpretive signs. The entire restoration area has become a hive of illegal activity, currently hosting approximately 35 makeshift dwellings and tents and massive amounts of associated debris, including 2 vehicles. It's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy on so many levels, including the fact that it's our taxpayers' money has been spent on that. However, we see it as an opportunity, because what an amazing opportunity for kids to learn about the restoration of a watershed of native habitat right in the middle of a major city. We also see it as an opportunity to ensure that the planting of native plants includes plants that are edible and that can then provide ingredients for the Native American restaurant. And I'm now going to throw to Rick. Sorry, yes.
So I think I'm actually an architect and an urban designer by profession, and I'm also an educator. So I'm kind of interested in all these kind of design issues surrounding around urban design, city making, sustainability, all these good things. So these are the things I'm very passionate about. And I think one of the first things we were looking at here when we started talking about this concept was like, who lived here originally? And when we understood what the story was about Sepulveda Basin and and the Encino area, and we understand that it's Tatavian, San Fernandino Indians. We thought this was really something that we needed to make a place for them here. And I think that's where the idea of the Native American restaurant or the indigenous restaurant and the foraging garden really came into being. That meshed really beautifully with the idea of the LA Unified School District Environmental Studies and First Peoples Study Center. So that's really how that came to be, and I think that's the kind of the heart and soul of the project. Can we get to the next? So there was a question about, well, what does a foraging garden look like? Like, it's kind of a contradiction in terms, right? I mean, if you're foraging, it's usually not in the garden, it's in the wild. So the challenge from a design standpoint was to figure out a way to really make a foraging garden something that would be an interesting experience. It would also be something that could be used as effectively a botanic garden for the general public, but it's also something that could be used to actually forage plants for ingredients for the restaurant. And then this would also be a way that the study center could help in maintaining and studying this for all for the kids. Basically, we're looking at, you know, from middle school through high school kids. And also, it's important to know that within bus distance along the Orange Line, there are 7 LA Unified School District schools within walking distance of the Orange Line. So the idea of having a study center like this particular spot at Balboa and Victory is ideal in terms of being able to bring together all these different schools in the public realm to this place. So the foraging garden notion, if you go back to that geometry, so the shape of these braided pathways is something that kind of emerged first from the problem of avoiding all the existing oak trees. Like, what geometry do you overlay on this so that you don't cut down any oak trees? But then at the same time, it's an idea about how do you design something that looks like you could get lost, as if you're foraging, and not have a clear objective place to go, and something that could actually double tap on yourself so you actually don't get lost. So that's kind of where this shape comes from, and it actually kind of works very nicely because I think you can imagine yourself in this place as if you are searching for things, and it gives us over 9 acres great opportunities to create different clusters of plant materials and plant communities. And then we can go to.
Let's just go back to the site.
Oh, yeah, site plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you see where the farm, you should point it out.
Yeah, so the foraging gardens over here, but the important thing is to see how the whole layout of this works as an entry sequence to the base. That's the first big issue. Like, we're assuming we want people to be coming here on the Orange Line, right? On the buses, and hopefully not too distant future on the trolley line, right? Don't use your car to come here, because you can get quite a good number of people to use more sustainable transportation to get here. And then this is actually the high point topographically of the entire basin. So from this point, when you climb up this hill here, you have a view over the entire basin. It's the only place where that is possible. So that seemed to be the perfect place to put an interpretive center for the park. Like any national park will have an interpretive center. This should be the place. And this could be the place where the ranger stations are, where somebody comes here to visit and gets exhibits that describe the natural history of this basin, as well as the cultural history of the basin. And from there, you can then move from this through pathways down and into the basin itself. And that starts your journey through the basin. At the same time, if you look at the Lake Balboa community, you can see that there isn't any real clear civic center for Lake Balboa, right? So, but this is a very logical place because of the presence of transportation. It's also at the fulcrum of where many schools come together. Kitty corner from here is Birmingham High School and a whole complex of schools. Makes sense for this to be a meeting place for the community. So the notion of creating a civic plaza, a circular space, really became something that was important to the scheme. And the idea that you can come off of the orange line, enter a very clear urban civic space, and from this point either come up this a ramp and exterior escalator up to the ridge line of the park, and walk across that high point. You have just a beautiful vista of the entire topography. And then from that point, a new bridge across Bull Creek brings you to the study center and the restaurant. And from there, that moves us into the foraging garden, and then this connects back to the cultural spine that the master plan is developing. Right, that whole promenade that the master planners have put together includes a number of public facilities, all grouped along the southern edge of Victory Boulevard. The master planners did a really great job of recognizing the importance of community facilities and community interfaces for the neighborhood, and they grouped them all along the one urban edge of the park. Right, so they're looking at putting an aquatic center for the community and another orange line station at Woodley, and it becomes a second entrance to the park itself where the golf courses are. So this became a really clean, elegant way of kind of creating completing or terminating that. It's a big idea that the master planners have.
So that's good, Rick. You've almost finished the whole thing, which is wonderful. Thank you for that. So I just want to just add one small thing. The Native American restaurant, aside from the history of the basin, we were also inspired by a indigenous man in Minneapolis, whose name is Sean Sherman, who calls himself the Sioux Chef, S-I-U. S-I-O.
Play on Sioux Chef.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, and he has this extremely successful destination dining restaurant in a park in Minneapolis, and the cuisine is astonishing. The menu is astonishing. But he's also set up an organization to inspire and teach indigenous tribes across North America, Turtle Island, as he calls it, to find the knowledge of and the indigenous foodways of their region. And we were very lucky to get one of those chefs based in Los Angeles, a woman whose name is Claudia Serrato, as part of our team. And so the restaurant, we're not going to be running it. It's going to be indigenous people that work under Claudia. Claudia will be providing training. And but we do see this, and this is something that my wife Carrie said that when we first started talking about this, it has to be a really great restaurant. And it's in this amazing spot overlooking. You stand up on the berm at the moment, you can see what an amazing view it is. Looking over the park, looking over the kitchen garden that we planned, looking over the Lake Balboa and into the mountains in the background. So the reason that we wanted to come here tonight, you guys have been stewards of this amazing piece of land, this 2,000 acres. We plan to build things, and that's not necessarily something that people want, but we really want to build these two buildings to serve the community and provide something that's really a great asset for the community. It'll also do one other thing. the first question that Pat asked me was, so you're planning to have a ranger station? And we said, yes, we always we're thinking of that. In fact, we proposed it to the city. But we're also, because we're going to have these two buildings, we're going to have 24-hour security. So there's also going to be a security office. Now, to have that, to be able to pay for that, we have to have these two buildings. Because then there's something to protect. But it's also going to be looking after the community and making the place safe. Ari Bennett, the principal of Birmingham High, said to us the other day, he said, my kids, they don't want to go anywhere near that corner of the park where we plan to put the Community and Resilience Center. That's a tragedy. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. So we're hoping that if we can make this happen, and we're determined to do so, that we will make an asset for the entire community. So thank you. We really, really would love your support. And at this moment, with the master plan, the Army Corps of Engineers reviewing their master plan, they're going to, putting buildings, another 2 buildings in the park. I'm sure we're going to have some discussion with them. So again, we'd like your support for that as well. Thank you very much.
Questions? Go ahead.
On your map of the overall site. Yeah. Where's the 100-year flood line?
I don't have those that data here, but it's a long way distant.
Yeah, it's somewhere, it's somewhere down here.
Yeah.
This is actually the high point of the entire basin. So
Yeah,
we make sure
don't
that.
have it memorized.
No, but I have, we've looked at that. Yeah.
And then, and I don't know at what point in time the Corps is going to look at, how the upstream development might affect the flood capacity of the dam, to go through the rest of the area.
I have a question.
Yes.
The gray area, you've got, okay, to the right of the round structure, you've got a gray area up at the top above.
Yeah.
Yeah, and frankly, that area is pretty much solid encampment right now.
I know it is.
So what's gonna, do you have any plan for those areas around?
So the entire area needs to be landscaped.
Obviously, yeah.
And again, in terms of the encampments, we bring people, we bring the community.
Yeah.
The homeless people, I mean, it's a tragedy for them too, but they're going to feel a little less welcome because the community is going to be there.
So basically for those areas, I mean, that could be like an upland, oak woodland.
Absolutely.
But it's not a part of this plan.
No, I mean, we haven't. Bull Creek is very much a focus, and so that's why it's been green, but the rest of the area is. I mean, this is a mess down here as well. That's a little bit too much for us to think about. But certainly the area up here, yes, we'll be looking at that as well. And yeah, and we'll be doing that with the park and with Greg. By the way, I want to acknowledge Greg. Carrie and I walk around, we walk around Basin so many times, and early on when Greg was gathering his folks to build, to put in the plant garden, there he was. And he had these people doing this amazing thing, and now it's expanded.
Yeah.
So we very much want to work with the California Native Plant Society, and particularly with Farmer Greg, as Carrie calls it.
If I can just make one comment, all the education activities you're talking about there, whether it's field trips, water quality, native plants, indigenous culture, San Fernando Valley Audubon Society and RCD of the Santa Monica Mountains have conducted that near the wildlife lake for how many years is it now? 20 years, I think. In addition, we've got a very active, probably up to 2 acres, amazing native plant restoration project going on.
Yeah.
So I would really hope that our groups on the ground there aren't ignored going into a project like this, because we are already have a 20-year history of doing this in the basin.
Quite the reverse. In fact, I talked to, so Jason Flatters, our part of followers on our board. And I talked to Jason about asking Aaron, I don't know if he did, prior to the meeting, to say that we want Greg and his team, which of course includes the Fowler team, because Fowler has been sending volunteers. I mean, absolute, you know, we're newcomers. Rick and I are very respectful of everyone that's been doing amazing things here for a long period of time.
What I'll say is one of the things that Fuller was really intrigued by, there's a lot to be intrigued by. But we really appreciated the ground up approach that was being used and the focus and the priority being placed on finding the folks who are there, finding the folks who are already invested and collaborating with that knowledge. So
yeah, this is the last slide. I don't know if we've got everyone, but we certainly want to have everyone. If we've missed anyone, let us know.
I do not see the Sierra Clubs.
Oh, everyone goes to the Sierra Club.
Thank you. And you were reading my mind. Let me just emphasize that a bit in that any project of this kind of magnitude, but in general, if you're trying to build community, which is our objective, it has to be about coalition building. So, you know, our objective here was, you know, our first thought process was, who is here? What's the potential here? What's not being represented? What's not being made here that could be made? And so that's really where this whole concept came from, right? It's a natural environment, it's a cultural environment. We have topography, we have vegetation, we're missing vegetation, you know, culturally, who should be here, who hasn't been here. These are the kinds of questions we were thinking about as we kind of formulated this notion. So it's, you know, it's evolved, but it's a very inclusive vision. If, you know, the intent is to include the community in all of its forms.
Can I take a question from Melanie first? She's Melanie, if you want to unmute yourself and ask away.
Sure, thanks. So just to clarify, your interest is in building the Resilience Center and the little plaza there, the restaurant / education center and the garden, correct?
Yeah, and the restoration of Bull Creek.
Okay, so
right.
now
and also the bridge that connects.
What you have no expertise in river restoration.
No, we're going to be employing the best people you can find who have expertise, and also working with.
I strongly recommend that you drop that from your project. You don't want to be in charge of that.
Well, thank you.
I don't know if you're familiar with our work. I saw you had our logo up there.
The River Project.
Oh, yes, I read the River Project in great detail, yes.
So you looked at the feasibility study?
Yes.
Okay. There is no one in Los Angeles with the technical capacity to take on Bull Creek restoration. And if you're going to project manage this, if you don't have that expertise, you're not going to be able to select somebody who does. And it's just not something you want to take on. It's going to happen, but I'm not quite sure why you want to be in charge.
Our intent is actually to fundraise for this, so that this becomes an integrated environment. That's the number one thing. It's from a master planning strategy and from making sure that all these pieces kind of fit together in a coherent way. That's really our primary intent. And finding the right people to do all these pieces is critical.
Well,
So we're not. So we certainly would be welcome to your advice and expertise in how we put our team together, certainly.
and what's the largest project that the two of you together or individually have overseen that would be comparable to this?
I mean, we're a nonprofit, and we are primarily here to develop this master plan and coordinate these pieces and fundraise for this. And hopefully we will be able to execute pieces of this as we go as part of our nonprofit.
So what's the largest project that you have executed in that way?
We haven't.
Okay. Thank you. And in terms of, one of you is an architect, yeah?
Yes.
And but you've built buildings, I take it.
Yes.
Okay, so you've built comparable things to like the Education Center and the Resilience Center.
Yes.
Great, good, okay.
And if it makes any difference, I've been a film producer for 40 years. I've made very big films in very difficult circumstances, including a John Milius film shot in Borneo. You know, I'm very accustomed to difficult projects. I acknowledge that I've never done anything like this before.
Yeah, yeah. But the fundraising skills anyway.
Well, I said exactly. Not only the fundraising skills, but the skills in bringing large, diverse groups together for a single goal.
Yeah, that's, you know, I have a background in some of that myself too, so I'm aware of the overlays, but I'm also aware of the challenges of adding something like Bull Creek to a project that's already rather massive.
Unfortunately, Bull Creek's right smack in the middle of the two buildings that we plan to build. So we want, as Rick says, to raise the money for smart people to do it. But we're very, very grateful to you for your comments and appreciate it very much. And would love to get together with you if that's okay.
You're welcome to reach out. Yes.
Can we stop sharing? Well, or maybe not. Let's take the questions and see if we need the screen.
I think just follow. Okay. I think so even the comments about Bull Creek, I think it's a good opportunity, a good open door to have that conversation. So I mean, it's a great connection with Melody. Talk about her experience with it in the years of service to the river is immeasurable. So she would be a great friend to make an ally to talk to in the incorporation of this event. A lot of this, and we've talked about it, this really feels a lot like Deb's. So there may be some comparables to that in the overall sense of how it's managed, what it is, and everything else. And I, you know, having lived in the valley for 53 years and having watched that site be what it is, it's abysmal, and it would be great. I think it would be great, especially as residents in the area, to see something like that. You know, the simple questions that I have is I think there's a lot of partnerships that you can make in this, and even other groups that are starting to come up, whether or not they last for many years or not. But obviously the folks in this room, the high school, elementaries, CSUN, there's even folks, I work at LMU, they do a lot of stuff. Here's Salona, yeah, so there's a lot of deep knowledge folks in and around the areas that are doing very similar things, that at a phone call or an email, we'd be more than happy to spend a lot of time talking about it.
I should just add one thing. So you're all aware, I'm sure, of the Bolosanabu crossing. Julia Samaniego, who's the nursery manager, is part of our project as well. So we have her skill, and we met Catherine, her teacher, who was the principal nursery manager the other day, and she's also available to us. But yeah, we have Greg.
I'm an interesting passerby. My question, so really, you know, this goes to like the work brain. So the real rudimentary one is like, how big is the parking? Like, how many spots are we looking
The parking will be based on this, basically square footage of the buildings that we're developing, right? So the notion for the study center and for the restaurant, if you have the diagram up there,
I can make that go away.
Yeah. Depending on how big that ends up being, it'll be proportional to that. But we kind of set it up, if you can see it here, so it's kind of expandable and it's hidden, the important thing is hidden from the park. So this is the high point, so that from the park, you will never see any of the parking. So that notion, that's the first idea. The second is that it would be hopefully like a grove of trees as opposed to a parking lot. So they could have permeable paving of some type, whether it's DG or something else, something that feels more like a park and not parking. So it becomes part of the native landscape. That's great.
And then
the other part, under the plaza, the interesting thing about that location is the topography drops about 8 to 9 feet from the corner where the orange line roadbed is down to about this spot. That's enough for us to actually get one full level of that grade parking under the plaza. So the notions can come in off Balboa Boulevard into this at grade and be effectively underneath the plaza, and that would give us enough space for parking and deliveries that would be effectively below grade.
So, and then the other, the two questions probably go hand in hand. Who would own it and for how long, and then who would manage it for how long?
So that's a conversation we have to have with the city. We've been patiently waiting for the Bureau of Engineering to be available to have that conversation.
Waiting a while.
Yeah, and so yes, so whether it's a 99-year lease or something like that, we don't want to be the owners of anything. This is a community, we're a non-profit. It's a community project. And just in terms of our board too, we have Jason on the board. Hopefully we'll be chair when his wedding is done. He knows.
Jason on a wedding, brother.
And Michael Medizian, who's a prominent businessman who lives in the valley, lives in Studio City, is on our board. And LeVar Burton is also on our board. I'm sure you know who he is. So we have an active valley board of people who live in the valley, who are committed to the valley, and Jason being one of them.
But I think part of the details that we're still trying to formulate all that with the city. It appears the way it's going to work is we would effectively be a sublessor or basically a tenant to parks and Rec, just like the golf courses. Or in the golf course.
There's interesting analogs to the Bologna Discovery Park. It's a very similar cutout or carve out from the bigger biome wetlands. And so they exist as an individual nonprofit, but on land that's part of the bigger city area.
I've got some hands up here, and I'll get to Joe then and.
That's fine, it's okay. Just really quickly, I wanted to commend you on having the interpretive center, because nowhere in LA City is a nature center. All parks and all the natural areas that we have very few natural areas anyways, but there is no nature center. So to potentially have a nature center in there, it's really good.
We have Debs Park.
What?
We have the Audubon Center at Debs.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
sorry.
a.
Thank you for correcting me, but I've only been to Debs once, and I didn't really, I'd forgotten about that, so thank you for correcting me. But, also security, you mentioned that as well, that's an important aspect to that, because you certainly don't want people to forage all the vegetables that way, and there'll be nothing left, because people will abuse whatever's available. Secondly, on that map, if you can make that map disappear, or if you can make the overlay disappear, yeah. I love the map that you have, I even took a picture of it, but I don't see any blue on there. And lots of gray area, but I would just say, can you point out where the water is?
The water.
It's down at the bottom in the middle.
Down at the bottom and
That's
the
like Balboa.
And right up there.
All the way out.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, you need a pointer.
I know. And then if.
And then right in the middle, yeah, okay, but that's, all I see is gray, so I don't really see, I can't really see the water designation. But like I said, the interpretive center is really a nice addition. And I also liked Greg's comment about the parking, because you'll plan on everybody using the orange line and coming in on mass transit, and having bike racks for people to bicycle in, but very few people will. Everybody will drive, unfortunately.
So just talking about parking for a second, the city, the original vision plan idea was having the parking here. We fought that.
Yeah, you should.
Really?
It's too buried inside the park.
Yeah. And that's what the restaurant would overlook. They took it out.
Now, well, you also mentioned having the parking hidden underneath. And having it hidden behind the trees, but I mean, as it goes for most of the Sepulveda Basin parking becomes a very big premium, and people will abuse whatever they can. Come over to the Sepulveda Basin on the weekend.
Oh, no, I've seen that.
Off of Woodley, it's a mess.
Yeah.
People parking on the street, parking in spots, but then parking in the park and parking wherever they can.
Can I go to Nuri for a question? She said her hand
Actually,
up.
yes, I would love to speak, but I see that Hannah has her hand up, and as Army Corps is the manages or owns this land, I think it'd be great to hear from Hannah first.
Here we go. Anna, can you unmute?
Yeah, well, sorry, I just had a quick question. I think someone asked if you had a timeline in mind. I was just thinking about the Olympics and if that would coincide with this. That's all I had.
So thank you for that. We were told by the city that there would be no buildings built prior to the Olympics, which is a shame. You know, we would like to have the restaurant up and running. But it would very much depend on our relationship with the Army Corps of Engineers. So we hope to build that coalition sooner than later.
Well, I think it's an issue with the, so I'll just jump in then if that was all that Hannah had. So Nurit Katz, I'm sorry not to be there to meet you in person. I represent LA Audubon on this committee, but I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer for UCLA and have a background in K-12 environmental education. Prior to that, used to work for LA County Parks and Recreation at a number of nature centers, including Placerita Canyon, Eaton Canyon, and other locations. So definitely excited to see this project proposal. You know, obviously there are many large visionary plans for the Sepulveda Basin and not much in the way of concrete funding yet. So I think having this as a corner of the basin to engage all the stakeholders and develop a plan and go after funding is a powerful idea. In terms of building before the Olympics, I believe the issue is that is the actual site. So the area where you've got the garden and the restaurant is the site, that is the specific part of the Sepulveda Basin where the LA 28 venues will be situated. So that is the reason the city is probably saying you can't build before the Olympics, besides the timelines and funding and all of that. So a couple comments. I do appreciate Melanie's concern around restoration, but I think, you know, as a river expert, you know, she may be thinking about full creek restoration. I think there's a lot in between that and, you know, restoration in terms of perhaps planting some native plants and everything in the area. So depending on what kind of funding and resources are available, I think it is important to have some level of restoration included here. But I would second Greg's comments about really sitting down with Melanie on that. One of the concerns I wanted to raise is with the Native American components. I think they're beautiful ideas, but if you have not yet, I really encourage you to, you know, meet with the tribes and find out if this is something they actually want. You know, Native American culture is not history here. It's also, you know, these are living peoples with priorities for their tribes. And so I think you know, before pushing that idea any further, including the restaurant, I think it's really key to find out if there is an interest from the tribes. And if not, you know, what they would really find valuable and what they would like to see there. So if that's not happening yet, I would encourage that tribal engagement sooner than later, rather than shopping this around to continued stakeholders. Otherwise, I think you're really risking hurting those relationships.
Thank you for that. We
Yeah.
have spoken to Rudy Ortega Jr. and the Tatavian. We also
Oh,
have
excellent.
we also have Alan Salazar, a Chumash and Tatavian elder, as part of our executive committee. And
Okay,
as,
fantastic. I just wanted to make sure because those relationships
thank
weren't
you.
mentioned. So, yeah.
Thank you. The honest truth is that none of this would be possible without the three of them being involved. And so we actually waited to incorporate until that had happened, until we had their support and their
Oh,
involvement.
fantastic.
More
That's
than
really
their support,
wonderful.
their participation.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I think there's huge potential here. There's lots more I'd love to discuss with you, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that it's getting fairly late, and I think we still have other agenda items like the master plan.
We would love to talk to you too, so I'm going to get your details from Pat.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great. Pat can put us in touch, and let's talk. And thank you so much for sharing this with us. I think having, you know, a coalition to actually fundraise. Oh, the one other thing I was going to say is that, you know, you may have seen the headlines about the city having $1 billion deficit. So I think it's absolutely critical that fundraising for something like this include an endowment or a very significant plan. You know, as you probably have heard from other stakeholders, Sepulveda Basin is very underfunded as it is. There's not ranger support. There's not the level of maintenance that's needed. So while capital projects are beautiful and inspiring, and you can get people to donate to build something, the really key piece is going to be how it is staffed and maintained. And so I think without that, it really will not be the same benefit to the community. So you're either going to need a major endowment for some period, or, you know, otherwise significant planning around the staffing and maintenance of these areas. So look forward to talking with you more, and thank you so much for the presentation tonight, and also look forward to seeing the slides if those are getting sent around.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great, I will connect you. Do we have any more? Because we are running late, Glenn.
Yeah, so this area is leased by the port and the city. I'm not aware that the city does subleases. Or that the port would allow that. What I do believe Recreation Park does is they do right of entries, or they do concession agreements. And some of the things are successful and maybe some are not, in terms of, I'm thinking of the restaurant, Woodley Lakes Golf Course. And you addressed the Olympics. From our best efforts, we haven't been able to find specific information of, you know, what was said earlier and now, but we are having a meeting in a few weeks that hopefully, but even then, I don't know if it's definitive, but, you know, 2020 is rapidly approaching. I personally oppose especially anything permanently in the basin like that whitewater rafting, whatever it is they're gonna put there. Because that's a permanent attraction. Let me just say this. In the park assessments that have been done for the basin surrounding areas, you know, and in terms of available land, in terms of money to buy, if there was any available land, we are extremely park short. And so to put more buildings in of any nature takes away open space and takes away the passive recreation that we're not getting any more of. And that's why we have fought, the community have fought, even when something was called as euphemistic as arts park. It wasn't an arts park, it was a music center being put where now Lake Balboa is. So this is scaled down. I think it has some very valuable community gardens is actually something we pushed for in the last iteration of the master plan. We couldn't find a good, well, we actually did find a couple of potential locations where we suggested community gardens. This was not one of them, but that's okay. But so there are some intriguing things, certainly environmental education. But that mixed with parking, underground parking lots, structures, taking away the open space that really needs to be enhanced for commercial purposes is not something that I think is a good idea. We just need more open space and more passive recreation. And instead, what's happening is the city and other entities are filling up our open spaces that we have now with all sorts of different structures. And so we have less natural areas and we have less passive recreation. And so this is one of the few areas where we have that opportunity, the nexus with the Bull Creek ecosystem restoration project, Lake Balboa and the open space around it. And it's unfortunate that Metro feels it has to be in the housing. You know, instead of just doing transportation, they have to develop their transportation into housing. But you know, that's not owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. You know, and unfortunately, that's a board that we don't have too much control over directly, certainly indirectly we do. So I just don't think that you know, one bad thing happening up there should not be something that's say, okay, there's density up there, and you know, therefore we want to put some density here. I don't agree with that. I think there's enough challenges in recreation and parks, just in terms of managing what they have and different things. And yes, if they put it out and we put it into another entity that's responsible and they don't have to do it, you know, I guess we can have that conversation. But anyway, that's my opinion on just what I've seen here, although I do want to say that there are, you know, the community garden aspect somewhere in the basin, something we ask for more of, and environmental education. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Melanie, did you have one more?
Yeah, just one last thing. I appreciate the Resilience Center being combined with the branch library, but I'm a little confused. There's an awful lot. I mean, this is owned by the federal government, this land, and the city has lease holdings throughout the basin. And as Glenn said, I don't believe they sublease. So if you do not have a relationship yet with the Army Corps' real estate division, you're going to need it. And it's like speaking a foreign language, but developing the kind of variety of uses that you have here, including I assume a county branch library, as well as a for-profit restaurant. There's a lot of complexity here, and one of the first relationships you're going to need to develop is with the real estate division. Bureau of Engineering is not going to go to bat for you on this much. I suspect that we're losing interest in the basin pretty quickly now that things are not going to happen before the Olympics. And I want to just also strongly recommend that you don't stop your tribal engagement with where you are right now, and that you also reach out to the Tongva. This was not strictly Tutaviam land. And it's not as easy to do your outreach to Tongva, but you're going to need to do that. And then just lastly, I'll say, Nurit's right about an endowment being necessary, but I think that's an understatement. There has to be a permanent source of funding going forward for stewardship, maintenance, and ongoing everything. And that's a much heavier lift. But fundamentally, you need to start with your Army Corps Real Estate Division relationship. That's it.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. And if I may, I know I was the one who called out the fact that it's getting late, but I do want to add to Glenn's comments, because I do actually really share those concerns about significant building within the area. I love the idea of an interpretive center, particularly if it's something like Debs Park, where there's really a garden or a lot of outdoor space and minimal kind of built space. That I think could fit very nicely in that corner. And I love that it's close to the Orange Line. The restaurant location, I do have concerns with. You know, people look at the basin and they say, oh, it's empty land. Well, it's not empty land. It's, you know, important habitat. And we do have you know, local raptors and other, you know, non-human members of our community that really rely on open fields and open spaces. So I do think perhaps considering the restaurant location being across the street, where there is already restaurant space, might be more appropriate than trying to build it in, as Glenn pointed out, what is very limited open space. ditto for library, et cetera. There's a lot of already built space and so much space in LA that is in need of occupants that I don't think we need to build as much, but very supportive of the interpretive center. And, I'm sure this project will evolve, but I would like to just throw out there that sometimes, you can sort of end up diluting or doing too much. And I think, focusing on that education component without trying to be everything might end up making this project stronger and more sort of fundable and all of that. But anyway, look forward to longer conversation and really appreciate the beautiful vision and advocacy here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we have got a lot of stuff to get through quickly here. We do have, I somehow neglected to put public comment on the agenda. We have a attendee from the Sri Lankan Photography Association who wants to put trees somewhere in the wildlife area. I'd like to allow them a couple minutes to explain. So let me, if you're there. Okay.
There we go. They're unmuted now.
Yeah, my name
Okay,
is
good.
Sadisha. I'm representing the Surya Pereira, the president of association. Yeah, we actually submit a proposal to the city, and then they refer to the forest, and forest again they refer back to the steering committee. So how is now status of that proposal?
I don't know that we've seen an actual proposal, so perhaps that needs to get forwarded to Pat to share with the committee. We're certainly open to consideration, but I would also just point out that planting trees isn't the only way to contribute to the earth at the wildlife reserve, and there are some wonderful native plant areas that could really probably use more attention and support. So if you're open to engaging with FOLAR and CNPS and organizations here that can help organize a volunteer day for Earth Day, perhaps there could be a little bit of a pivot to support some of the existing efforts to restore plants in the area as opposed to trees specifically, since I know there were a lot of trees that Rec and Parks just planted, but other colleagues may have different thoughts on this. But either way, I don't believe we've seen a proposal.
Yeah, so yeah, the answer is yes, I have not seen a proposal, and I am concerned. I think we would need to see a proposal, basically, where I'm seeing people nodding everywhere, so.
I can put Pat's email in the chat for you, and then you can send that to her and we can consider. I think the issue though, Pat, is that they want to do this for Earth Month and we don't have another meeting before then. So it might be
for 27, April 27, we are planning to do it. That's
right. And since we don't have a committee meeting before then, I don't think this is something we can easily sort of consider and vote on as a committee. But that doesn't mean that we can't take a look and have you again engage with some of the individual organizations that are part of this committee that are leading restorative work that your volunteers could very easily connect with to do something special on the 27th. So
yeah,
I think
I totally agree with that. Especially because we do have groups experienced in the area and already doing work. But Muriel, do you have a word to say here?
Yes, I wanted to mention that this is not the best time of the year to be planting native trees. Your project probably on a smaller scale. At one point, you were talking, I think, about something like 100 trees, if I'm not mistaken. That's a tremendous amount of trees. It would, I think, for anything on a huge scale, there would need to be a plan as to exactly how, what, and so forth. And they normally should be planted in the fall, around November or December. Trying to do it now would put them at a great disadvantage. And I don't think we can use anything on a scale like that at this time without a very formal plan. It's a beautiful idea, but I think to do something this soon, you'd be much better off folding in to the work that Polar and CNPS are already working on and have in place.
And again, you know, what we could use a lot more of is native plants. So if you have funding for this event and you were planning to purchase trees, I think
Yeah, we do
purchasing.
have funding. Yeah, we do have
Okay.
funding, and we have tried to reduce like 5 to 10 trees, not 100 trees, because Leon from the forest does he suggests us to reduce not 100 trees is too many. So we like to go in like 5 or between 5 to 10 trees. That what we are otherwise, if you can, we can do it 27. So any option that we can join with you? You have a program on April 12th, yeah?
So I'll just jump in, given that we've been planting. So I will say that next weekend is really the last day that we're planning on planting this season. Given the heat and everything else. Everything that gets planted out in the basin ends up being hand watered basically on a weekly basis. And so this season we will crest out at just over 300 plants in the ground. So for the most part, planting that we manage or we would manage is done. I wouldn't be opposed, and this is California Native Plant Society, I wouldn't be opposed to talking to you either offline or separately in email to sort of strategize how to do this. For this season, to add another 100 or even 10 or 20 plants at this point, with the bunch that we're doing this weekend with another organization, might just, it just probably is too much. I mean, we already run about 10 people, 4 hours Saturdays to make sure they're all watered. And so, you know, this season is we've pretty much maxed out. What I will say though, and again, we could do this separately, California Native Plant Society, Pat can give you my email address. We can speak separately about it. So if there is something specific you're looking to do, and it was a much more scaled event. So if there were just 10 trees or 10 things you want to put in the ground, I think we could probably figure out where to put them and how to do it. Because I mean, we'll always take trees out in these fields. So, but I would say reach out to me direct and we can chat about it.
And
Okay,
this is
okay.
Erin from.
Can
this
you
is
put
Erin
the
from
email
Valley River.
chat, please?
Say that again.
Can you put your email address in the chat or something? Then I can write down. Then I can reach you out later.
Yeah. So we'll put it on the chat now.
Yeah, I can add Greg's email to the chat as well as Pat's.
I've got too much going on right here.
But we can speak about it and sort of get a scope of what you're looking to do and give you a list of the things that should go on the ground. So.
And I just wanted to invite you again to the events coming up in April. We would love to have you out for one of the restorations, either on April 12th or April 26th.
Yeah, April 27. I heard 7 to 2. What is that program? The event?
Oh, it's from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. on both days. And Greg is involved in that event and can, give you more details when you reach out. But we would love to have you and have you out in the space. It'd be wonderful.
Okay. It's in Woodley Park, yeah?
It's in the wildlife reserve, not the park.
Yeah.
I mean, the park, I don't think, I mean, we would say just be careful what you plant and ask parks, but this is specifically for the wildlife reserve area.
Right.
I have one comment.
Yeah,
here.
we as association, we are working with since 2018 we are doing bird walk over there with the Audubon Society and something we are doing.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're really appreciate your support. I just put Greg and Aaron and Pat's emails in the chat. So I would just reach out to them and hopefully you can make it work for one of the existing restoration events. Or if you did need it to be on April 27th, they can help you think about ways to contribute to the wildlife reserve that day that would make sense. It is getting
Yeah,
too
we
hot
didn't-
to do some plantings, but there are other things that might be possible, cleanups, etc. So
What I was gonna say is, if there's not gonna be any more planting, maybe you could use her group and resources for plant removal. Some of the.
yeah,
some of the
weeding or to do some watering. Exactly.
Watering, and then
Yeah,
remove
we
the
coming to do
invasive.
that. Yeah, we will come watering the plants when
So that's the restoration event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good? We'll make
Yeah,
sure
last
that
thing,
they
we would
get
like to we have
emails. Alrighty. I do not. Okay. So we need to move ahead here. I'm very out of order today. I'm just gonna remind people, we've got the LA City Park Needs Assessment going on.
You wanna go to reports of committees, reports of member works?
Give me 1 sec.
Okay.
Is that all parks?
Yes, all LA City parks. There's a park needs assessment. They've got, on their website, I've got a link in the agenda, there's a survey to fill out. And then it'll be going on, so I don't know if we would like to form like an ad hoc committee to look at that, or if we can interact with parks. You know, whenever appropriate.
What's the timeline on that?
It looks like the survey is going to run through, just a minute, I'm gonna change the view on this thing here. It looks like it's going to run through, mid-April, and then they're going to have some more meetings. So, you know, we do want to make sure we get some input on it. And our next meeting theoretically would be May unless we call a special meeting before that.
So they said they're gonna have draft plans out over the summer.
Yeah.
So we definitely should plan to get any input in by our May meeting.
By the May meeting, so.
Anybody, groups can, you know, act on their own speed, probably sooner the better. But I just want to clarify, this is not just about existing parks. This is also about what are the needs for like new parks.
Right.
Now, you know, where they get the money to purchase. You know, and
They have land.
but.
Yeah.
Some of them have land.
But the point is, you know, you're not constricted to just the existing parks. You
Yeah.
can make it wild, but that's how the funding for the wildlife area improvements was.
Right.
Not this process, but something similar where they put together a measure for the ballot. I don't know how this will come out. This is probably, could be, worst case scenario, it's a dog and pony show just to check the boxes. Say, hey, we did public input, and then they go ahead and do what they want, and they ask 15 council members. And Rec and Park says their own that they want, and that's what they put on the ballot. But having said that, that's the way it's done. They're spending over $3 million on private consultants to run this thing. So they're the only ones that for sure are gonna get something out of this, so. Yeah, we should definitely be at the table and put our thoughts in.
Okay. So I will keep an eye on it and see if we do need to convene a special get together. In maybe April or before our May meeting, so let's keep an eye on that. I have on the agenda, Council Member Padilla's motion, 24-1533, regarding removing invasives and increasing the number of native plants basin-wide. And I've started working on it. I actually have been, consulting, or I was asked about it by the, actually Tessa Charnovsky and the Theodore Payne Foundation. We're starting to look at it. I don't believe I'm ready to address that tonight. We have a draft in process. And what I would like to do is get Greg and some of the native plant people on board to discuss this. So I think we can take that offline for now. I don't know if Rosie wanted to address it tonight, but if she wants to, she can give me a holler.
We don't have to address it today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we better talk about our comments for the Corps of Engineers. I did distribute the Audubon comments that we drafted, we approved it, and I did submit it to the Corps today. So I have no idea if any of the other groups have submitted comments, or if you would.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but did you just say that you submitted on behalf of the Wildlife Area Steering Committee?
No, on behalf
of
Audubon.
I did not. I submitted on behalf of Audubon.
So you've already sent that one in. Okay.
Yeah.
But is the consideration here tonight, two questions, Pat, are we considering whether to adopt the SFV Audubon comments in whole and adding all the other organizations to the same comments and submitting as a steering committee? Or what are we considering? And then two, and my apologies because I was not available for last month's special meeting. Do the Audubon comments reflect the discussion? I think there were a few of you, including Dan Cooper, who is our, I would say, most experienced biologist. Are all the recommendations that came out of RCD SMM incorporated into the Audubon comments?
To the best of my knowledge, they are. I certainly got additional areas that are wildlife favorable, certainly got in expanding the waterways. What I did do is I finally, the way the master plans are laid out, it's kind of weird. Anyhow, I finally reorganized it in order of the sections in the 2011 master plan. I added our recommendations and comments in italics through it. There's certainly, I don't believe there is a recommendation or a goal in the 2011 plan that I would object to. Going forward, what I did note is most of the objectives weren't realized.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Your comments are really thorough and detailed. So I'm just wondering if we're considering them as a whole or if there are sections that we believe would be appropriate for the full committee to endorse and submit. And then lastly, I was scanning through your comments again, and I'm not sure if I saw it, but were we supposed to document? I thought there was discussion last time that the subgroup was going to look at about some of the specific sensitive species and maybe calling out new areas with Bell's Vireo or anything like that. Was there a need for that, or is that not really in the master plan?
I didn't catch that. New
Sorry,
areas.
I was wondering whether there was, I thought we had discussed kind of documenting some of the sensitive species or nesting areas that perhaps, and maybe that's just captured in the environmentally sensitive. Okay, I'll have to read it again. I might have missed it.
I pointed out in there, we've got Bell's Vireos nesting all along Encino Creek. We've got them all through Bull Creek.
Okay,
Um,
perfect. Sorry, I didn't see that. And then did you also talk about the nesting in the riverbed, like blackneck silts,
Yes.
etc.? Okay,
I
perfect. Thank
pointed, yeah, that also, I pointed out that's also infested with Bell's Furios.
I don't know if infested is the right word, but yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, and I also noted, for example, the ponds in Woodley Golf Course are significant foraging areas for for example, the great egrets, or I'm sorry, great blue herons, because it's directly across from the rookery. So I pointed out, you know, maybe we should look at some of these other areas for protection.
Yeah, thank you. I noticed the call out for the heron rookery along the golf course. And appreciated that inclusion.
Yeah, the great blue heron rookery on the LA River. Rookery.
Where they nest.
Oh, okay, that's where they nest. I never heard that word before.
Okay, so I mean, I would offer that as an option to the steering committee to basically change the name on it. Because I would be perfectly happy with where I do mention in there that for the tributaries in the river, the widths, easy for you to say, should be increased. And Melanie did send over a couple of schematics that show the basically the revised floodplains for these tributaries. And I could attach that as an exhibit to it.
Yeah, I was wondering if it's possible, you did a great job here, Pat, that we talked about last month of tying it to, you know, the existing master plan, et cetera. And I know that was a lot of work and I really appreciate you doing that. I would just want to tweak a couple of things when it talks about, 5C, new 6D, and yes, 5C and 6D. I really would have liked to have had the widths in there, and I would prefer that we're talking about, rather than riparian buffer zones adjacent to the river and the tributaries, I would rather say floodplains of the river and all tributary creeks.
Hold on, I'm getting it here, and what I can do is make some annotations, tidy it up tomorrow, and
cool.
So it's
5C, instead of saying riparian buffer zones adjacent to, I would rather say floodplains of the Los Angeles River and all tributary creeks and streams.
So it would be encourage restoration and widening of the flood plains of the LA River and all tributary creeks.
Right. And I did send along the proposed widths for each stream.
I can incorporate that into this.
That would be fantastic, because we want these buffers, we want these areas set aside and designated, not just considered for ecosystem restoration, but also designated for land use designations. As you note the same thing down in 6D. So the same thing in 6D, and I don't think we should limit it to below the G-line bridge. I think I would strike from the G-line bridge to the dam there. And that's in the place there where that's where you put the widths in the land use classifications. And then instead of, in the same thing there, instead of saying riparian forest buffers, I would say floodplains. Floodplain buffers, if you will. Or riparian.
Okay, so basically then in 6D.
Yeah.
6D, consider of the LA River.
And all its tributaries.
LA River. And all its tributaries. In the Sepulveda Basin. And suitable, I'm gonna leave the suitable buffer zones there as environmentally sensitive. And then floodplain.
Then you, instead of saying riparian forest buffers, you can say floodplain buffers should be expanded. And that's
Okay.
where you can include the widths that I suggested.
Okay, so then in that 6D, I've got floodplains should be expanded to allow blah, 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 and I will say as follows.
Right.
The following is recommended. How's that?
Right.
And I will include all your the text, and I can also send this over to you to take a look at.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows, I looked at the existing width of the river corridors and all their tributaries. I looked at what was proposed in the city's plan for each of those. And I looked at what we had studied in our work for what makes for a functioning streams in each case. And I made recommendations based on considering all of those existing alternatives and looking at what could be wise and feasible in terms of setting aside land to designate it as something that's not going to get developed away from us, and that can be protected as wildlife and floodplain buffer zones that can allow for future restoration.
Excellent. Yeah, I support those changes that Melanie has recommended. I also would note, since there's a lot in here about uses and maintenance and signage and lots of things other than just land classification, I'm wondering if we shouldn't also, and forgive me if I missed it in here, I tried searching for a few relevant words, but would it also be wise, since we've mentioned a lot of other things the committee has discussed, to mention the soil moisture, shallow flooding, fire prevention plan that RCD put together? I know we've had discussions with the city about that. You know, maybe at least like referencing that document and recommending that Army Corps partner with RCD and the city and others and consider that strategy. I thought it was a really excellent plan, and I know the city has expressed interest, so it might be nice to add that in here as well. Trying to remember the official title of the plan. I'll grab it off the RCD website. 1 second.
If RCD could get me a brief summary that I can stick in as a paragraph, it'd be great. I don't know if anyone's around that can do that.
Yeah, Dan is gone internationally. I know Bella worked closely on that, so I can ask her for that. But we can also just pull it from the publication, I think, which is posted on the website. So let me see if I can help you with that. The title of it is,
I mean, frankly, I am so jammed up on time.
Yeah, no worries. I'll get you some language. The title is Sepulveda Basin Reserve Wildfire Resilient Habitat Plan. And
Okay.
I'll grab you some language from the plan that we can incorporate.
Okay, so I think what we're looking at is we're looking at maybe, unless anyone else has input on this, we're looking at taking a vote on possibly submitting this as a committee with the changes regarding the floodplain and with a paragraph regarding the RCD flooding soil moisture project.
That sounds good.
I would move to agree with that. I make a motion.
Oh, Terry makes a motion to agree.
I would second that, but I also wanted to say, I'd like the mention of the fire prevention, because the fire is always gonna be an issue for everybody, wherever we go. And I think I'm sure it's in there, but.
I did mention it, fire prevention.
But the security and the invasive activity from humans, obviously is an ongoing issue.
Yeah.
The invasive plants.
I talked about that in great detail.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah,
mentioned.
Pat made sure that that's right at the beginning of her comments, the result of frequent fires, including a fatality because of not, a lack of enforcement about trespassing, anti-camping, et cetera.
Then naturally the propane tanks that get left behind that contribute to the fire.
Okay.
I do have one suggestion on 4H.
Which 4H?
4H.
Okay. So I will make these. Remember, this has to go in mañana, so
The simple suggestion.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's tomorrow midnight, I think is the deadline, but, okay, so 4H is the basin-wide recommendation about rapid and current information on conditions such as fires, floods, et cetera. Did you have an edit there?
The last sentence there, I just recommend that you actually put in the council file number,
I can do that.
just to,
Good idea.
they don't have to look it up.
Thank you.
Maybe a link.
Okay,
All right, great. I second Terry's motion with those changes, including Glenn's most recent suggestion.
okay.
2 seconds.
We've got we've been seconded and thirded. So that said, can we take a vote? I. Okay, the
Aye.
vote is and Melanie and, Marie. Okay, so it's unanimously approved with changes to be made early tomorrow. And it will be emailed to the appropriate, site, and it will list, the steering committee and all the members.
And thank you for all of your work tying it to the master plan in terms of its structure and everything. I know that was not no small task.
Yeah, this is
It
a ton of work. It's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, Pat. This is really
Okay, thank you.
incredible.
Thank you, thank you. So great, I'm glad we got that done and, now we have reports from member organizations.
Unfortunate.
Wanna go first, Fuller?
Fuller?
Go first.
Just more growth and interest for habitat restorations. We're at 184 people come out for our monthly event on the 22nd. Lots of repeat folks. People are coming up to us in masses now, saying they want to get more involved, they want to be more supportive. Chatting with Greg about increasing the level of training that some key volunteers get so that they can be site captains. Help with the, I think you call it herding cats.
Yeah.
Pull this, not that. So we're gonna move forward with that with the support of our new director of community engagement. His name is Ryan Maida, and he is coming from I Love Clean San Diego. He's been basically doing this work in San Diego for many years. He is also on the chair of the AEOE. So we're really excited to have him on board, and I'm excited to introduce him, to many of you. If you have time, I'd like for him to get to chat one-on-one with some folks, as well as meet the committee as a whole. And then we have our events coming up. So April 12th and April 26th, both will have a similar format over 2 shifts, starting at 8 a.m. We aim to have at least 400 to 500 people come out and participate in restoration with our partners.
Oh, cool.
You guys.
Both those days.
Both those
The
days.
12th and the 26th.
So I have no idea why the meeting hour quit working, but,
Great.
Is it down?
Thank you.
huh? I think it's tired. Okay.
I'll just jump in CMPS. So real quick bullets. As I said earlier, we're up to 270 plants, as of a couple of weeks ago. We have a Eagle project for the Boy Scouts happening this coming weekend, which is gonna be another 50 plants. The Fuller events have been great. I mean, it is kind of like herding cats. So the breaking people into smaller segments, I think would be the great way to go. A few weeks ago, we had another local environmental org that came out and joined us, small group, 10 people, REC LA, which is starting to build steam, but they have a presence and they're liking what they're doing. And I think we have 2 weeks and then we just head right in fall our season for April.
Right?
It's good. It's been really good. And we've had a really good success rate with the plants so far. So I think stopping planting now is the way to go. And yeah.
JJ was gonna offer $500 for plants if you wanted.
I will put it in the bank and we'll hold it for next fall.
Hold it.
I think what we're looking to do, moving forward, we had a tremendous amount of success with the plants that, CMPS, a donor from CMPS department purchased, what didn't sell at a plant sale. And it bolstered our plants by 100 for the year. So I mean, it's that we think that might be the way to go instead of like filling up backyards with plants to put out. Yeah. And that's all I got.
Okay, there, I got the owl back on, I don't know, sometimes I don't know what the hell the thing's doing, I'm just gonna get away from it here.
You said you're planting this weekend is on the
Uh,
30th.
This weekend it's on Saturday.
Okay. Do we have anything from the river project,
Yeah.
from LA Audubon?
Nurit has a update. Wanted to let you know in case you haven't heard, because I'm not sure how widely it's been shared, but LA City has some funding designated for workforce development and brush clearance. So I am working with colleagues at the mayor's office, et cetera, to try and ensure that this effort ends up being advised by the right experts, that there is the right training to make it focused on invasives removal and not any sort of harmful brush clearance. And I also requested that anything that is considered for the Sepulveda Basin go through this committee or engage this committee. So hopefully that happens, and I will try to keep an eye on this and keep in contact with the city as it develops.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have anything really, but I mean, not specifically relevant to the basin, but the tree people put on a soils conference a couple weeks ago, and I would say 85% academic research, a lot of it focused on fire, but also on brownfields and contamination and stuff like that. It was a great, as these conferences go, and it's always inspiring to see the data that's being developed. It was nice to see a lot of folks, both from Altadena and Palisades, sort of coming together. My job was to wrap up the day and talk about how you make all that great academic stuff translate into policy. So I thought I might be too depressing for everybody, but apparently everybody was like really inspired. So that's great. So there's a lot of good work going. A lot of it relevant here, some of it maybe not, but
yeah, there is a lot. And on that topic, I can forward to Pat to distribute, but there's a webinar coming up that CNRA and the Karuk tribe are hosting on cultural burnings. And there's a new relevant law in the state of California. So that's something we may want to consider. I know in the past we were trying to do a small controlled burn as training for the fire department and, controlling invasives. Colleagues of mine at UC Santa Barbara have been engaging in cultural burning activities with the Chumash. My understanding is for the LA Basin that cultural burning was not a technique for the chaparral, but more for grasslands. And so it might be very appropriate to consider for the basin moving forward, and something we may want to discuss at a future meeting. But I'll send out the webinar info in case of interest.
cool. And can we get some workforce development for goats?
I know, right? I did notice that you put the goats in the comments for the
Yes, and the folks over at Council District 6 are still interested in goats.
Cool.
So the conversation is not over.
Excellent.
Go by, then we don't get someone asking us about goats. A week doesn't go by out there.
I know, we all want goats.
There was something on the news recently with fires.
Okay.
They saved a bunch of goats.
So are we done? Huh?
I moved it, wrap up.
Okay,
Yeah, we
Glenn
made it.
has-
Nicely done with everything we covered. I can't believe we're only 4 minutes over. That's impressive.
Hold on, Glenn.
I'm gonna defer to Dan with regards to the RCD since I have been able to get the last 2 board meetings, but for the Encino Neighborhood Council, just a couple of things. First of all, I didn't say anything to them, but Encino Neighborhood Council was created all the way up to Victory Boulevard. Everything from Victory Boulevard south, whether it's in the basin or not, is within the Encino Neighborhood Council. Later on, Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council was formed, and they got Sepulveda Basin as shared facility. But that's not everything south of Victory, because it only includes Sepulveda Basin. It does not include the metro property, doesn't include any of the private properties. So I just want to let everyone know that. the main thing I wanted to mention was that through the Navy Council and the budget advocates, they released their white paper on the city budget, so there's a section in there about recreation or parks. I don't know if it's adequate or not, but there it is, and if it's not, we'll work to beef it up next time.
Okay.
And the council file has just been opened for the new city budget, and it's 25-0600.
As usual.
And the mayor is scheduled to release her budget, or has to by law, on April 20th. However, that's a weekend, so she actually has until one more day, till the 21st. So at that point, given $1 billion deficit, how that will affect the department, especially recreation and parks, general funding, or anyone else that touches what we do in the Sepulveda Basin, pay attention to that, because that.
I did learn from the chief ranger that they're losing 7 positions. And they're already under, so not good.
Yeah, and you'd be added.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
that's it. It is 8:37. The meeting is duly concluded.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank
Thank
you.
We will get this owl thing figured out eventually. I don't know.
We never asked for comments from visitors, did you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks, everyone.
There.
Good.
I can't believe it's still here.
And
Thank you for coming.
nothing to report.
Okay, and I wish everyone a good.
I like the owl, by the way. It works really well.
Okay. So we're out. Yeah.